Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Catholic Missions in Canada's annual Taste of Heaven Gala. Our hosts for this evening are Father David Rylander and Joe Gennaro. And now, please welcome Cardinal Collins.
Welcome to the Taste of Heaven virtual gala. This event is, as every year, a way of supporting the great work of Catholic missions in Canada. Through that work, the presence of Christ is made known throughout our country in ways that bless the lives of so very many people. And the Taste of Heaven gala is a way of supporting that great work, for which I am deeply grateful. As we begin this experience together in this virtual way, as we do so much in these days, I pray the Lord to bless each one of you and all who are gathered together in any way to support the great work of Catholic missions in Canada.
Welcome to the Taste of Heaven virtual gala. My name is Adam Helmers, and I am the Digital Communications Officer at Catholic Missions in Canada. I'm joined tonight by our hosts, Joe Gennaro and Father David Rylander. Before they introduce themselves, just a couple housekeeping things. If you have any questions or comments throughout the night, you can pop them into the YouTube live stream chat. And we have people in the office at the phones if you want to call. The number is in your program, and we will also share it later on tonight in order to take donations. So I'm going to pass it over to Joe and Father Dave. Let's start actually with Father Dave to introduce himself and get the program started.
Thank you, Adam. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad that you're able to join us for our second virtual Taste of Heaven Gala. Hopefully, next year we'll be able to do a sit-down meal once again. But I'd like to thank you for being interested in us and watching and seeing what we're doing. And hopefully for some of you that joining in the wine tasting and the chocolate experience, and also at some point to use the other things in your kits, which Christian is going to show us, and hopefully maybe learn a few things too. Joe, over to you.
Well, I'm Joe Gennaro, and I'm the Stewardship Officer here at Catholic Missions in Canada. This project has been a blast putting together, and let's get started right away. Father, can you introduce our first speaker?
Yes, I can. But first, I think we better tell everybody that you and I, unfortunately, have COVID. I've got it worse than you do, so we'll see if my throat lasts throughout the evening. But now coming up, a friend of mine and Bishop of the Victoria Diocese, Bishop Gary Gordon, and we're going to Tasis, to a place where we help to put the roof on, literally.
So I came especially here to be with Bishop Gary because I want to show a church, a mission church, that CMIC donors helped to put a new roof on. And I'm going to ask Bishop Gary just to talk about that roof. and the circumstances?
Oh my goodness. Well, you know, when we call this the West Coast, we also call it the wet coast. This is one place that rains, and without a good roof, you know what can happen. The whole place gets wrecked. So I think it's about 4 years ago now that the funding came through from Catholic Missions in Canada in order for us to put the roof on here. And that was no simple feat because, first of all, in a little place like Tasis, 250 people, there are no full-time roofers. So we had to organize and find a roofer in Campbell River that was willing to come out here with all the equipment and all the product to get it done. But I was actually here when those guys showed up, and they were so keen to get going. They climbed up on the roof about 10 o'clock that night, and they were trying to inspect it with flashlights. But 4 days later, they had the roof done, including the bell tower. And I'm glad I was actually out fishing when they were doing that, because apparently they were hanging from the cross on ropes from the top of the bell tower to do the steeple. We won't talk about WorkSafe BC on that one, but I'm sure it didn't quite meet muster. But it was with the help of Catholic Missions in Canada.
Yeah.
So.
And I remember being out here 4 years ago and looking at this roof, and the roof was in terrible shape.
Yeah.
Now, just to let you know, getting materials and workers here from Campbell River means a 2-hour drive. You go to Gold River first, and then you drive on a horrible, horrible road the rest of the way. So
it is pretty steep in places. I think 15% grades.
Well, I was a bit more concerned about the huge potholes.
Oh.
But I had to follow you in the truck, your truck, to get here in the little Toyota Corolla that I'm renting.
Yeah.
So this is a good news story of a small village in Vancouver Island that is very poor, and I think you were describing it as one of the poorest missions on the island.
Yeah, I think it probably has to be the poorest community on Vancouver Island. We got St. Vincent de Paul to start a food bank here 3 years ago because the poverty is just grinding. So we're very grateful for that, and very grateful for the assistance that Catholic Missions in Canada has provided to keep this beautiful church going. It's the only church in town. And what's really interesting for folks out there, they might like to know, my sister-in-law's dad, Joe Malone, helped build this church in about 1956 when he was a longshoreman putting lumber onto ships that were coming in here and going back over to Asia. So this was at one time a big town of about 3,000 or 4,000 people and a big mill that was shipping lumber all over the world. But all of that disappeared in 2000. So now we're just trying to keep it alive. There's a handful of people that come here. There's a wonderful man, Baptista, that does the lay-led service every Sunday. And once a month, the priest comes up here for Mass. So, it's just an example of keeping the church alive, no matter how distant, how far away it is. So grateful.
And that's what Catholic Missions in Canada is. As you know, you used to be a member of the board.
I was a member of the board a long time ago.
So
yeah.
Keeping faith alive in remote Canada, where bishops don't have, sufficient funds to subsidize their mission communities.
No.
And here we are. This is it. Tasis on Vancouver Island, BC. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Gary. Appreciate your input there. This past fall, I had the good opportunity to visit the Yukon Diocese of Whitehorse with Father David, and I met some great people up there. We also had a chance to speak with Bishop Hector Vila and his missionary team. So without any further ado, I'd like to present Bishop Hector Vila.
One of the particulars about the North is the lack of priests. Right now we have 5 priests in different parts of the Yukon, Here in Whitehorse, we have two priests, one at the cathedral and the other at Our Lady of Victory. And then we have a priest in Dawson City, which is about 5 or 6 hours from here. We have a priest in Fort Nelson, a priest in Watson Lake, which is 5 hours from here. And that's about it. There is our 5 priests. Over the years, we have had different priests coming over to the north to serve our missions, but it's always difficult. Number one, because the north is particular, the climate is particular. We have 18 hours of darkness to 20 hours of darkness many times during the winter. The same with the summer, 18 to 20 hours of daylight. And the difficulties that one may consider when talking about the priest is the isolation that they have to go through and endure throughout the year.
One.
Thank you, Bishop Vila. I just got off the phone with you last night, and unfortunately, the 5 priests is being reduced to 3, and I found myself committing to going there for 6 weeks in June and July. I'll be going to Watson Lake, and 2 weeks I'll be going down to Fort Nelson. And of course, I look forward to it. I love being in the Yukon. I'm going to introduce you now to some friends of mine I used to fish with in the Yukon. I witnessed their marriage. And this is Pam and Greg. And they decided to become lay missionaries in Faro and Carmack. So here they are.
So Pamela and I became lay missionaries in the Diocese of Whitehorse. Bishop commissioned us about 3.5 years ago. We've been almost 3 years now in Faro and Carmack, and it's been quite interesting. It's been a great experience for both of us in this vocation. We retired from our careers, and the bishop snaggled us into mission work, and we've quite enjoyed it. And without missions in Canada supporting us, there wouldn't be much going on in those communities, because you only get a priest in the winters. You're once, maybe twice a month. In the summers, maybe a little bit more in the summers, because the driving conditions are much easier. So for these communities, it's an absolute blessing for them. Also, I've been studying in the diaconate. I start year 3 in about a week, and because our missions are not self-supportive, the 2 that we look after, every dollar counts that we get from missions in Canada, and I know that they have helped in my education for the diaconate schooling.
So prior to us becoming lay pastoral associates, we lived at a lake, and we would go to Liturgy of the Word and Communion service in another community called Teslin, which was 40 minutes from where we lived. And it was such a beautiful witness. There was an elderly couple. There was no priest in Watson Lake at the time, and they would drive all the way from Watson Lake to Teslin.
3 hours.
3 hours.
One way.
One way. And they would come most Sundays just so that they could receive the Eucharist and have community. And we were just so impressed by the love that they had for their faith and the Eucharist, that they would travel. And this was also in the winter time.
In the wintertime.
And the conditions aren't always great in the wintertime because it's ice roads here. But this couple, they were elderly, they were in their 70s at the time, I believe. Yeah. Was just such a beautiful witness in the north here, because they would be committed to driving 3 hours one way, and then they would leave. They'd go home the same day.
They'd fellowship for a little bit and then travel all the way back to Watson Lake. And they did this week after week. Like it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who don't know, Diocese of Whitehorse encompasses all of the Yukon and parts of northern British Columbia. So having said that, we've asked Richard to explain what it takes to prepare for a missionary trip.
There's a theme among what everybody's spoken about so far about the distances.
Yes.
And I think the important part there is that our distances are physical distances with nothing in between these communities on thin membrane roads with bushed in ditches, wildlife problems. If you're traveling in the evening at night in the wintertime and it's minus 30 or 40 below, there may not be a car pass by for hours. Lots of people are stranded overnight in blizzards. They don't get rescued till the snowplow comes. So these aren't southern highways with off-ramps and gas stations. You can drive, as we heard earlier this evening, you can drive for 2 hours and the gas station is closed. And if you don't have a jerry can, which is a 5-gallon can of gas in the back of your vehicle, you're knocking at a door to find a place to spend the night, and you hope you can, because our 40,000 people in our territory, which is half the size of Alberta, is sparse, and there is no off-ramp, there's no convenience, there's no cell coverage in most of the Yukon once you're away from the community. So that's the logistics and the realities of traveling between the communities and the missions here are not to be taken lightly by people working here or by any Yukoner that lives here. That's a reality that is, I think, difficult to grasp because conveniences in the south are around the corner or a cell phone call away, and they're not here.
One.
Well, thank you.
We're back. Thanks to Richard for sharing the travel conditions out in the Diocese of Whitehorse. I'm just going to quickly bring people's attention to their programs on how to donate. If you'd like to make a donation throughout the evening, you can do so online by visiting www.cmic.info, or you can call the office, and I'm putting up a slide there with the telephone number as well as the website address. We're accepting credit cards online and over the phone, and everyone would have received an envelope. If you'd like to send in a donation by the mail, you can do it that way as well. So I'm going to toss things over to Joe, right, to introduce our much anticipated wine tasting portion of the evening.
Well, thank you very much. My understanding is from all the people out there is that they've already dipped into their wine and their chocolate. So we won't waste any more time and take it to Amy Baldwin from Waupoos Winery, and she'll explain our first wine selection and our chocolates. Amy?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me this evening. As Joe mentioned, my name is Amy Baldwin. I'm the head winemaker at Waupoos Estates Winery. I know we're very eager to duck into our wine and chocolate, but I'll take a quick minute to give you a little bit of background on the winery and myself. So Waupoos Estates is actually the first winery in Prince Edward County. The founders of the estate were Ed Noiser and Rita Kamens. And they happened across the 100-acre estate, just driving through the area one day. They had a love and passion of wine, and they thought, you know what, let's go for it. So they purchased this 100-acre estate in 1983. Now, at this time, it actually was predominantly apple orchards, and that's not going to work for wine. So the first order of business was to remove some of these orchards and start to get their head wrapped around their vineyards and their planting. Ed is of a German background, and so he actually reached out to another fellow German winery in Niagara called Reif Estates. And the two of them kind of worked closely together, discussing what kind of grapevines would really thrive in Ontario. So they thought, hey, let's go for it. And the first vines were planted in 1993. The winery as well was built from the ground up. On this side of the property, we're on the water's edge, and it's actually 18 feet down to bedrock. So they dug all of that out to build the wine cellar, and up above we have our wine boutique store. It takes a grapevine about 3 years to produce grapes, I guess, worthy of producing wine. So we had a little bit of a lag time between our plantings and our first wine release. And the boutique itself opened up in 2001. The founders decided to sell the property in 2011. And now in this area, we have over 30 different wineries and even more grape growers. Now, with them kind of coming into this new region and thinking to plant grapes in such a wild climate, their focus was really on experimental varieties. What's really going to grow here? What's going to thrive? So they planted a little bit of everything. Now, to date, we still kind of keep that philosophy, just trying to plant a wide variety of grapes. We have 20 acres under vine and 7 different vineyard plots scattered across our property. With that, we have about 17 different varieties split pretty equally between red and white wines. And we have some kind of obscure varieties and some of our tried and true classics like our Cabernets. Today, we're going to be trying 2 of our hybrid variety wines, and we're going to start everything off with our white. So I have it pre-poured, just I didn't want to make a mess in case I spilt it. So we're going to kind of walk through a structured tasting with this wine, sort of the steps in trying wine and why we do what we do. So I have my pre-poured Vidal 2021. So I have it here in a nice stemmed glass, and the first thing that I like to do is check the color of the wine. So we can see that it has a really nice kind of deeper, almost hay tone to it. And this variety is super versatile. We can make really light, crisp, easy table wines, and we can go all the way down to super rich, sweet ice wines. That's because this variety has a really thick skin, so it's super cold tolerant, pretty disease resistant, and typically tends to be a higher yielder. So we get more grapes per acre. After we check the color, it's looking nice and clear. We like the way it looks. We're going to give the wine a little smell. Now, I prefer to use a stemmed glass when I do wine tastings. And the reason for that is if we have a stemless glass and we hold it like this, we're actually going to start to change the temperature of the wine. Then when we go to smell it, there's a chance that we're also going to smell our hand. So if we have any lotions or things like that, we're not really getting a true sense of the wine. So we like to keep it up like this. After we do our first smell, we swirl the wine. So you can do it by hand, or if you have a tabletop, you can make little tiny circles with the base of your glass. And this is actually going to be opening up the bouquet. So we're adding a little bit of oxygen into it. We're really making this wine kind of come alive. Then we're going to give a nice deep smell of the wine to truly get some of the characteristics on it. So we're getting some honey notes to it, a little bit of a lemony zest, and Vidal tends to have a lot of peachy or stone fruit notes to it. So we're getting a lot of these really lively fruit notes with kind of a bit more complex notes with that sweetness there. And finally, we got to the best part, which is actually trying the wine. So the first sip is going to kind of cleanse your palate, get rid of any residual taste that you might have in your mouth. And the second sip is what we would call a truer taste of the wine. So this is a really nice dry white wine. So we're just sitting at 3 grams residual sugar, which means that it's also super food friendly. We get into a lot of different complex flavor profiles with it, with a nice, clean, crisp finish. It also has a really nice acidity to it, again, kind of leading to its food friendliness. For our chocolate pairing with this wine, we recommend going with one of our nice flavored bars from Donini Chocolate. This is our white chocolate with lemon and cranberry. I didn't open my chocolate because I had a feeling I would probably eat all of it if I did. When we try wine and food together, I also recommend getting that wine taste first, then incorporating our food to just see how the flavors mingle together and how they match. So starting with our white chocolate bar, we're getting that nice, smooth white chocolate, and the berry notes of the cranberry is going to help enhance some of these underlying fruit notes with the wine. And of course, that little hint of lemon in the bar complements our kind of lemony zest, lemon peel flavor profile. So this is what I would call a very complementary pairing. We've also added, just for fun, a little wild card chocolate. So we have a 54% chocolate with fleur de sel salt. Now, this is a fun pairing to do with this wine because the saltiness of the chocolate is actually going to kind of enhance the acidity that we find in the wine. So this is a really nice gauge to see how food and wines work together. Donini Chocolate is located in Belleville, Ontario. So it's about a stone's throw away from us. It's just about a half an hour drive. Really nice family, locally run business, and something that we absolutely love carrying at the winery. So these two pair nicely together. I'm going to save a little bit of information on our passamento and how we actually make this wine for a little bit later on down the road, as I will be popping up to go over our red wine tasting notes as well. And I did prepare quite a few notes for us in our wine package. So a lot of this information is kind of reiterated on all of our tasting cards, as well as the information about our estate itself. We have grown pretty substantially since since our beginning, I suppose. We now have a fully farm-to-table restaurant nestled in the vineyards. We have our wine boutique and also our cider house that's on the estate. So we really try to use all of that we can on our estate and kind of keep this nice sustainability, low intervention practices applied not just on the estate, but also to our wines. So cheers, and we'll see you in a little bit for the red wine.
Thank you, Amy. If you want to ask questions throughout the night to those watching, you can do so again in the live stream chat, and I will make sure Amy gets those questions. I'm going to pass things over to the man in the Arctic gear. Father Dave, what are you wearing? Can you explain to us what's going on there?
Yes, here at St. Anselm's, where I live, Father Tom is trying to save some money, so he's turned the heat off. So I've had to go and get my cold weather gear out, and so I have my Canada Goose Expedition and my minus 40 gloves. If you're ever going to buy these, it's really important. Get one of these, because you know, if it's minus 50 out, you don't want to take this off to reach into your pocket and get a Kleenex in order to blow your nose. You just, well, you kind of get it, right? Okay. So that's a little warm in there. What Richard said about traveling in winter north of 60 is really important, because you can die of exposure. The first time I went to the Yukon, I hit a moose, and I knew enough to get on the outside of it, because otherwise you would have 1,600 pounds of moose coming through your windshield, and well, you're no more. Anyways, enough about that. Another friend of ours, Mr. Biagio Vinci, is a restaurateur in Toronto. He's also our executive chef. This year, we invited Christian Pritchard, remember that name, from Aurora Foods to do our food demonstration. So we asked Biagio, please introduce Christian, and here's Biagio.
Hi, my name is Biagio Vinci from Biagio Ristoranti. I'm the culinary advisor of Taste of Heaven Gala. I would like to present to you Chef Christian Pritchard.
So today, folks, we're going to be making an unbelievable classic pasta dish from Rome, actually a little bit north of Rome. It's called bucatini alla amatriciana, Okay, and my pronunciations, it's okay. But a great little story about Amatrice is in 2016, there was a horrible, like terrible earthquake there. And one of the great things that, happened throughout the world was a lot of money was raised by people making this dish all over the world to raise awareness and much needed funds for the relief of the earthquake. I remember driving through there in 2016 and being a Canadian, we really have no concept of how unreal some of these natural disasters are. And it certainly opened up a lot of thought for me with that too. But classic Roman dish. Simple, simple, simple. As the Italians would say, sempre, okay? So here's a few tips and tricks that are very important for any time you make pasta, okay? First of all, your water level. I like to say 4 or 5 to 1. So our pasta here is 450 grams, just about a pound. But I'm using easily 5 liters of water. Why do we do that? Well, you know what? Have you ever tried swimming in a wading pool? So let me do an impression of you swimming in a wading pool, okay? No, you're not gonna be able to swim, if you don't have a lot of water. Same principle with pasta. You want it to move around. You want, this natural starches to come out. And when you buy good pasta, hopefully you buy this one. That's my little product push. You don't have to do that. But you see, you look at the color too. And this is the bucatini. And if you look closely, this is the one with the hole through it. It's like spaghetti, but it's got a hole right through the center. So it's a little bit thicker. But with pasta, if you look a little closer, come on in, you see it's almost like a white color. A lot of pasta you'll see is like a gold yellow color. That means it was fast baked, okay? This is slow baked after the extrusion, after it's made. And by doing that, you have a much coarser starch. Remember, if you're really getting into cooking, one of the great things about the water is it's part of your sauce, which we can use that today too. Now, the other really, really important thing to cooks like myself and you is your salt level. Yes, we all have to watch the salt that we, consume. But with your pasta, I'm sorry. The water needs to be like the ocean, okay? So I'm gonna put a good amount of salt in there too, right at the boiling point. Not before, not after, right at the boiling point, because then everything's really ready to go. It'll come back right up too, okay? How much salt? Well, there's a few great ways to say it. Some would say it's got to taste like the ocean. What I like to say to people too is when you're traveling down, we're Canadians, so when we go to Mexico and these other places, remember you've had too many glasses of wine and you taste the water because you're out in that's what you want your pasta water to taste like, okay? Just that saltiness, really, really great. So in goes our pasta because this is a very quick dish and we're gonna be right ahead of al dente. So our pan is warming up here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna get everything together. Now let's talk about this famous dish. Because technically, what the guanciale is used. Guanciale, what is that? Well, guanciale is actually, think about it. If you're looking at the tastiest part of yourself, yeah, this is a nice thick piece of meat right here. That's what we get it from with a pig, okay? So it's the snout of the pig, and you can actually see it on here too. Look at that. It's aged, it's got some great, hey, come on in, take a look closely. Got some good spice on there and stuff. I mean, this goes back to, you gotta say, everything is utilized. Now, you're like, Christian, where do I get guanciale? I'm, this part of the country, it's a little hard to find. That's okay, because it is bacon. So if you want to use some great bacon that you have locally anywhere in the country, it's wonderful too. And what we want to do is we want to get the bacon into the pan, okay? And we're going to reduce and get some of the, just some of that fat out of there too. And this is how easy this dish is. We'll start this baby up and you're like, oh, so difficult, so difficult. I need the recipe. I sent you the recipe. You've got it in front of you. Don't worry. You don't need it that bad. It's really, really simple. So in goes the bacon. I've also got some pancetta, okay? Now, if you can't get pancetta, that's fine. But I'm going to put a little bit in there for flavor too because I care. And I'm all about flavor, all right? It's really good. Now, this is garlic. Who doesn't love garlic? Do you love garlic? Come on. Yes. Yes. Do you like garlic? Good. Because garlic is good for you. If you're going to get this fat all going, what you want to do is you want to flavor that fat. And what we're going to do is we're going to take, I don't know, how many cloves of garlic? You feeling like you need it today? I do. I always feel I need garlic. My wife says I need lots of garlic. That's why she stays away from me. I have to think about this. It's good. So, now the thing is, everyone's like, do I cut it up and put it in? No. Take your knife, smash it, throw it in there, because we can either keep it in there or take it out. Look at this. Right in, you're just flavoring your fat. Such a simple dish. Now, at the same time, what we're going to do is we're going to get in there. I use small spoons and things like that. You can use a wooden spoon, but I like to get right in there. And if you see, come on in, come on in. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to ask our cameraman, did you put the smell-o-vision thing on there right now? You did, so everyone can smell that. And you're going to be following me with what you're doing. So you're going to smell that bacon in there. And you know what? Here's the thing. I didn't bring the wine. You guys have the wine too. Who got the better deal? You did. It's all good. So in here, oh, smell that. And what I love is get some good medium-high heat just to get it going. No, you don't want to burn it. And if you do, so what? Burnt bacon tastes great. Just have that, put it in a sandwich. It's good. There's multiple ways we can do it at this point. So you're smelling the bacon coming out. You're also smelling the garlic. The two together are heavenly. I happen to have some olive oil, so I'm going to give it just a tiny bit of olive oil. Not on the listing. If you don't worry. If you want to put a little butter, there you go. This will just add a little bit more flavor. A little bit of Sicily. Because I'm not an Italian and I work in Italy and I work for an Italian company, I don't follow the same rules. I take Sicilian stuff, I take Northern Italian stuff, I put it all together. Here's one we're going to do because I used bacon as opposed to the guanciale. I'm going to put a little bit of pepperoncino in there. If you've got some chili flakes at home and you like a little spice, throw that in there. Because remember, great food is all about balance. And what we're doing is we're doing tomatoes. We'll get that in a second. So sweetness. We've got fat from the bacon. We've got astringency and some heat from the pepperoncino. And then we've got a heavy starch from the pasta. And that's all it is all together. It's really, really simple. Finish off with some pecorino or Parmigiano cheese. Really, really great. Oh, it smells great. Oh. All goes like this. Remember, we've got our pasta going, so we're going to take a look at that. Come in over here. And as you can see, I let the pasta swim, so it's doing really, really well. And it's really going to be pulled right out of that pot, right into this sauce in a few minutes. So, oh, smell that. Come in here. I want you to see something too. For those who get worried about when you cook, see this stuff that's burnt on the bottom of the pan? That's called fond. Uh-oh, I used a French term. For an Italian dish, I used a French term. Don't get angry. Because what we want to do is we want to get some of that off. Now, if you want to have fun, you want to take a little bit of that Waupoos wine and put it in there and get it out, no problem. Or you're going to be like me and use this product, which you have, which is an Alessia Pechino tomato. This is sweet cherry tomato from Pechino, Sicily. And I was there at the end of 2019. Remember 2019? Remember past all this stuff? Yeah, I was in Sicily. So now, take this Pechino and you take it right out, put it in there, lower your heat a bit, because it will spray up a bit. Oh, everybody, oh. Can you say it with me? Oh, exactly. Now the smell, you'll get that salt. Hold on. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So you get that beautiful salt. You get the sweetness right away. Now here's the thing about the Pechino tomatoes. Folks, what makes it so special is, and Italians will tell you this from coming to Canada, and why they do all their own tomatoes and make their own sauce was nothing wrong with our Canadian tomatoes. In fact, they're quite amazing. If you really want to know the truth, tomatoes are from North America. I mean, don't tell the Italians that, but they are, okay? Shh. Let's keep it our little secret, okay? But it's a fact. Now, the thing about these tomatoes from Sicily is there's like no acidity in them at all. So they're instantly sweet. So this is a real cheap method that you're taking it right out of the bottle and it's really ready. What you're trying to do when you use our Canadian tomatoes, you want to cook them all down to break that acidity out. But with this, you don't even have to worry about that. So now what we're doing is I'm just sort of taking some of those burnt bits off the bottom, heating up the bacon in there. And because I love you, I'm just going to keep the garlic in there. I'm being lazy. You can take it out, but you get that garlic, you're like, whoo, wow, okay. So that goes in. And basically, I'm going to turn up the heat just to bring this together. I'm going to take another spoon and try to see where I'm at here. Because the fat and the garlic have come together, the tomatoes coming together. Remember, with cooking, salt, sweet, fat, and now the starch, okay? And looking at our pasta, dead on. Okay, so with your al dente, you want to probably be 1 to 2 minutes under. If you get a little bit of this water right in, I always suggest take the pot, bring it right over, and if you're using the bucatini, put it right in. People straight. Oh, and by the way, if there's anyone out there in Canada, across the country watching this, if you take it, put it in your colander, and rinse it, you will hear me scream across the country, no! You can't do that. Because the whole reason is this beautiful starch that I talked about at the beginning, why the pasta is white and not gold. We want to take this gorgeous pasta into our sauce, and it's the last step in marrying the sauce together. So what we're going to do is mix it up now, just ever so gently, because that starch that's cooked out is now adhering to this pasta. Now, the other thing that people tend to do in North America is put way too much sauce with your pasta. If you see this is just lightly coated, and if you come in close again, come on in. I am taking all that beautiful sauce and taste right off the bottom of the pan. So, what we will do is turn this over. I'm going to turn this down, and it's doing its last sort of 1 to 2 minutes in the sauce to cook. And then, see how easy this is? And you think, wow, that's so easy. Exactly. One of the things that we do too much in food is complicate stuff. Why the Italian food is so great and why this Canadian kid fell in love with it was great flavor doesn't need too much. And that's what this is. So look at this. In. Make sure you get a little bit. I'm going to do a big plate. Oh, look at that big piece of bacon there. Now, technically you would put pecorino on here, but I've got Parmigiano. I just like the saltiness a little bit better. So we're going to do a little bit here. And now you have bucatini alla amatriciana with our beautiful Alessia cherry tomato sauce. You've got our beautiful bucatini pasta. And now it's all yours to try. Grab a fork, fill up your wine glass. Bon appetit.
Well, I don't know.
Smell-o-vision.
Smell-o-vision, yeah. I don't know about all you people out there, but I can smell that dish even without the smell-o-vision.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christian.
Yeah, thank you, Christian. We're going to move now to our door prizes. We have 3 beautiful handcrafted charcuterie boards. These were created by Father Dave. Live edge wood. Father Dave, why don't you tell us about these boards?
Yeah, okay. I'm still thinking about the pasta. I remember tasting it. I haven't eaten yet. Of course, with COVID, you lose so much of your taste. So the Costa Rican mahogany has been treated with mineral oil and beeswax. They're ready to go. And 3 of you will be sent these nice boards. Just a note, every 3 months, mineral oil, only mineral oil, because it doesn't go bad. Just slather it on overnight, wipe it off in the morning. So Adam, you're going to choose the names.
Yeah, I'm going to draw 3 names. We got a bowl here. Close my eyes. The first winner, Henriette Essiambre. Henriette, you are the winner of one of these charcuterie boards.
Henriette, congratulations.
Second winner, Rhoda Ungalak is our second winner.
Way to go, Rhoda. Enjoy your board.
And last but not least, Naya Reinders is the third and final winner of a beautiful handcrafted charcuterie board from Father Dave.
Naya, well done, well done. All three of you, we will be sending those boards to you.
We're going to move now to Teslin in the Diocese of Whitehorse to hear from Trudy Mosner, who is a lay pastoral associate at Immaculate Heart of Mary. Let's introduce that video.
So
Joe?
Trudy is our winner of the Missionary of the Year. Shortly, we'll be explaining that to you. And here you'll be with Trudy and her Dennis, who is a parishioner, but somebody she relies on very highly to get things done there in Teslin.
You know, there was, when the church was built, it was built with a minimum of what was available, like no drainage system or anything. So then in 2018 came the big project where we excavated all around the church, put down vapor barrier.
So for our donors, what would have happened, because this diocese depends so much on Catholic Missions in Canada's grants. If there wasn't Catholic Missions in Canada and there wasn't money to fix the outside of the church, what would have happened?
That's a good question. You know, like
it would be rot.
Then it kind of comes down to money again. You know, it doesn't matter which way you look at it.
It always comes down to money when you're fixing things. But it would have rotted.
Well, yeah, the church would have shifted and eventually collapsed.
It would have shifted
and collapsed.
It would have been condemned. Because we've had some churches across Canada that have been condemned and torn down because of that, and needing to be rebuilt. You don't want to get to the point where it needs to be rebuilt, then you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Especially this precious church. This church is really beloved by the whole community, even non-Catholics, you know. And I remember, like, I'm a member of Madonna House. I've been in this mission for 10 years now. And when I first came here, the health center's right across the street, and the lady that works at the desk there said, you know, the town is more peaceful when somebody's living at the church.
I think we're pretty gifted to have Trudy with us, you know, to help us through lots of, like, going through lots of hardships too, and, you know, like, you know, for Trudy, she was there for us to help out, you know, like, especially with the church, and, you know, like, say, for instance, like funerals and stuff, you know, Trudy was all there, you know, and my wife, you know, everybody kind of gets together, you know, and try to do what they can to make everything work.
What are Trudy's gifts?
For one, saying mass for us, you know, and Sundays, you know,
service,
and helping other people out, you know, like, you know, maybe people that come through, you know, like, you know.
Does the community trust her?
That, I think lots of them do, you know. You know, I'm pretty sure that she's pretty well liked in this town, you know, like, you know, like, it's just and then again, you know, you look at some people that are maybe drinking or something, you know, like, you know, that gets out of hand sometimes, you know, but we work with it, you know.
How long have you been here, Trudy?
Almost 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
Man, is that long?
Time flies, eh? Yeah.
Where were you before Teslin?
Before Teslin, I was in Regina. Before Regina, I was in Russia for several years.
Where were you in Regina?
I was right downtown at a Madonna House where we serve, a soup kitchen. Yeah.
How long were you there for?
I was there for 5 years.
For 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I had been in the Yukon for 10 years in the 80s and 90s before I left for Russia. And I one day got a phone call from my director asking me if I would be willing to go back to the Yukon and go into a mission where there was no resident priest. And I could not have been more surprised if I had got a phone call from Mars. You know, it was so totally not expected, but I didn't have to think twice. I said, yeah, I'll go.
So you were in the Yukon as part of Mary House?
I was the director of Mary House for 10 years.
You know, one of the biggest things, you know, like for residential school is forgiveness. You know,
Yes.
You know, for me, you know, like I lived with them for many years, you know, drinking and stuff, you know, just kind of erase that memory, you know, just and one day I finally learned to say, you know, I forgive you, you know. And after that, you know, it just kind of took everything out of me, you know, to just, you know, kind of free myself from it, you know what I mean? It's pretty hard for me to explain, you know,
Okay.
the abuse and stuff, you know, but it, you know, at that time, I think everybody in that school were figured they were doing the right thing, you know. And then again, you know, it's just, I think it was up to everybody to work together, you know. You look at Judy, for instance, you know, like, she worked with us for many years, you know, and Father Dave used to tell me, Father Dave Dawson used to tell me, if you ever have anything to talk about, so you go see Trudy and talk to her about it, you know.
Well, thank you, Trudy, and thank you, Dennis, for your thoughts and your wonderful inspiration. You're a credit to your community there. If anybody is interested in purchasing one of Father's one-of-a-kind handmade charcuterie boards or bread boards, there's some on our website that you can purchase. So when you have a chance, take a look on the website, and maybe if you want a custom one, Father will consider making one for you. At this point, we'd like to go to our second wine tasting. We're going to the red this time. And I'd like to call Amy back to let us know about it. Amy?
Delightful. Thank you for having me back. Okay, so we're going to move and switch over to our red wine now. Before I dive into this delicious bottle and glass of wine, a little quick bio on myself. So I actually have been the winemaker for Waupoos Estates for over 10 years now. At the young age of 20, I was going through college programs and came across the winery and viticulture program at Niagara College and thought, you know, worst case scenario, I'm going to learn about wine. I like everything it encompasses, science, nature, the creative process. So I kind of took this chance and enrolled in the program, and luckily I just absolutely fell in love with the entire world of wine, and everything from the ground, you know, from the vineyard, every process in producing a wine was just fascinating. So I continued my studies after learning kind of the nitty-gritty side to do the post-grad wine business management. And during this time, I actually worked at Rife Estates. Now, I had mentioned Rife earlier, and so the business relationship had still continued on. And so when Waupoos was in the market for a new winemaker, they reached out to their old friends, and the head winemaker at Rife, Rob, brought this opportunity to me, and was very encouraging, and sort of with the support of him and close Rife and my friends and family, I kind of took this leap of faith. And at 23 was the head winemaker of a winery in Prince Edward County. So it was a very fortuitous leap. I've absolutely been loving this area, and even the area, seeing how it's grown and thrived over this past decade. This area is now kind of renowned for its wineries, breweries, cideries, food. It's gastro-tourism to the max. So that's just a little bit about me. Moving on to our red wine. So we are going with our Baco Noir Passamento. So a Passamento is actually the terminology of the style of wine that we're making. Traditionally, it's known as Amarone or Vin de Cure. All kind of the same idea and philosophy by drying the grape. So again, on our little info sheets here that are included in your package, I actually have a few pictures of the process. So normally when we're making a wine, a table wine, we harvest the grapes. It comes down to the cellar for fermenting. With a passamento, we harvest the grapes, we lay them in a single layer on a pine rack, and we let them sit in our greenhouse for 4 to 7 days, weather depending. Again, traditionally, this process is done au naturel by laying the grapes on some straw or hanging in a barn. But because we have such a humid climate here, that would not bode well. So often wineries are kind of emulating this environment with either tobacco kilns or greenhouses to kind of create this drying process. So there's lots of information, even just on the back of your wine bottles here on the back label. I love all the information and kind of the technical specs of things. So we see brix at harvest. So brix is actually a British form of measurement for testing sugars in soft fruits. Basically translates directly to percent sugar. So we harvested these Baco grapes at 22 brix or 22% sugar, let them sit in the greenhouse for 9 days. And they came out at 28.9 brix or percent sugar. That kind of percentage relates directly to what our outcome alcohol is going to be. So both of our wines tonight, our white and our red, are on the higher alcohol side, just because our fruit started off so sweet. When we add the yeast to it, the yeast consumes all that sugar and it turns it into alcohol. So this Baco Noir sits at 15.5%. So really good to have with food. It's a nice kind of pacing wine because it is on the higher alcohol side. This is a 2020 vintage, so it's a little bit older. This wine spent 10 months aging in a single 500-liter American oak barrel. So when we go to do our tastings, we're going to pick up what we call primary aromas, which is actually a characteristic of this specific grape variety. So again, Baco Noir tends to have this really dark fruit component to it, typically very jammy in nature. This one turned out just stunning, and I love the description of Black Forest cake because it has that kind of chocolatey, kind of cherry vibe going to it. So we're looking at the color. Baco is another thick-skinned grape, super cold tolerant, again, great for our Ontario climate. The color in red wine comes from the grape skins. So when we ferment this, we ferment the juice with the skins. And as that's happening, we're pulling and extracting color. After a day of working with Baco, you can definitely tell the purple hands, the pigment is just wild on this. So when we're looking at it, we can almost not see through. It's so darkly pigmented. Now, when we swirl our wine, we get it swirling nice and high. What we'd like to see here, we hear it called legs or church windows. We start to see kind of these drips coming down our glass from that big swirl. Now, these people would think was a sign of maybe a quality, but it's actually the alcohol absorbing off of the glass from our swirls. So because this is a higher alcohol wine, we have these really nice kind of teardrops coming down nice and thin. So that's sort of what our legs mean when we say great legs. We're talking about kind of these evaporating drops from the glass. So same kind of steps here. Again, we're getting that really nice primary fruit there, that black fruit, that chocolatey vibe. When we get into this oakiness that we're smelling, so that would be called a secondary aroma. That's from our winemaking practice. So that's coming from our oak barrel. With American oak, we get kind of sweeter flavors like vanilla. We get that toasted oak kind of butterscotchy component happening. So that again is from our winemaking process. If we were to age any of these wines, then we would start to get into tertiary aromas, which is just as the wine ages over time, just like us, we change a little bit. Our wine changes a little bit as we age it as well. So really nice, full-bodied. This wine with its high tannin. So tannin, when we taste the wine, we get that kind of bitter taste or sensation on our tongue, similar to like if you were drinking a black tea. So that's kind of the tannin. So we're pulling that again from our oak. Our delicious chocolate pairing for this wine is going to be our 82% dark chocolate. Now, this is definitely a match made in heaven. We've got really nice dark chocolate that's going to balance out kind of that astringent component acidity of the wine, and it's also going to enhance those tannins that we talked about, kind of smooth and round everything out. Our 54% dark chocolate with fleur de sel is also going to go amazingly with this. We've got kind of the saltiness again, helping to enhance some of our flavor components or our tannin on it as well. Going back to kind of the back of our bottle, we have tons of information on our harvest and our tasting notes, food pairings, really food-friendly wine, just like our white. And if you also, like myself, enjoy reading corks, we have a little story about the cork. So this is a natural cork harvested from a cork tree. So it gives you a little history on the origins of this cork and also how old cork trees can live for, which is over 100 years, which is pretty phenomenal. Now, my last note, in all of our goodies and our packages, we have included a complimentary glass of wine. If you're ever able to come and visit us at the estate, please remember your little voucher for a glass of wine on us. And please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions regarding wines or food pairings. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Amy. Two things that are high on my favorite list, wine and chocolate, and they go together so marvelously. Thank you. We'd like to thank Amy and Waupoos Estates Winery for being an event partner with us this year. And we'd also like to thank the good people at Donini Chocolates and Aurora Foods. Without them, we couldn't pull this off today. So thank you very much to all of you. Father?
Thanks, Joe. Now, every gala, we have what John Turner used to call a living saint. And this is a missionary that we present an award to. And this is the first year we're switching the award because we no longer have the bronze statues. Rhea Kinghorn was commissioned by CMIC to write an icon of our patron, which is St. Philip Neri. And this is the new, see if I can do this properly. This is what she will be receiving. And you can see at the bottom, there's a plaque there with her name and date on it. You've heard the marvelous work that Trudy is doing. And to be an award winner, you have to be a Canadian missionary for at least 20 years. And that's Trudy. She's doing great work in Teslin. So congratulations, Trudy, and we'll be sending the award out to you. And congratulations to Bishop Vila for having an award winner in his diocese. Joe?
Congratulations, Trudy. Here's to you.
Congratulations.
We're almost at the end, but before we get there, we have some thank yous, and we couldn't have pulled this off without our sponsors. And this year, our sponsors came through fabulously. So with your indulgence, Father and I would like to rhyme off the names of our sponsors this year. Father?
For sure. Frank and Helen Morneau. Frank is the honorary chair of our gala committee, helping us so much as an event sponsor. And also the Knights of Columbus Council 1388. Every year they come through really big for us. Joe?
Our gold sponsor, Michael and Marianne Castellarin.
Got a list of silver sponsors. Celeste and Mary Iacobelli, John and Rose Gennaro, Stephanie Rylander, Empire Communities, the Ukrainian Catholic Eparchy of Edmonton, Don and Marta Buckley, Tony's Flooring Center, Tony and Maria Tolomei, Flaherty McCarthy Litigation Council, North American Crating, Edward and Loretta Purdue.
Our bronze sponsors, KPMG, Executech International, Tangram Partners, LLC, Ursula Deschamps, Dr. Edward and Stella Zadsky, the Guilfoyle Financial Foundation.
Our print sponsor is Ernst & Young.
And our production sponsor is Winter Brothers Waste Systems. Father, to you to close off.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you, Adam, for putting all this together for us. Thank you for being with us again for this gala event. And thanks especially to sponsors which made all of this possible. On behalf of our bishop stakeholders, our missionaries, the people in our missions, we thank you and ask God to bless you for your generosity, for keeping faith alive in Canada. That is what Catholic Missions is about. Thank you and good night.
Thank you from all of us at Catholic Missions in Canada for being part of this event and your continued support. For more information, kindly phone 416-934-3424 or visit Catholic Missions in Canada at www.cmic.info.